Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're doing the photography morning show. I'll get it right. So we're going to be taking a look at one of the topics that was suggested and asked for by many of you, and that's how do you get started? How do you set up your own studio? How do you get things going? So we're going to be doing that today. All right. Oh, I know why that happened. Hang on. I got to fix one thing real quick, and then we can get going. But I see some folks already in the chat, and I forgot to change one setting. Let me go change that setting right now. Copy. Hopefully our paste will work. And then I can go live everywhere else. All right, hang on. Output settings. Yes, I know, never do this while you're live. Hang on one second. And did it paste? No, it did not. Hang on. All right, just gotta get one thing right, then we'll be good to go. I gotta launch a browser, I gotta check some settings here. Hold on. Let's go into Chrome. I forgot to paste the stream key in for the other part of the stream, so my bad. But if you're watching on Behance, great. If you're watching on other platforms, you can't see it yet because I didn't do this part. But let me get this going. And then we can, hold on. Oh. It's one of those when you're in a hurry. Oh, come on. It's bringing up every website except the one I want. All right, sure, go there. It's bringing it up as a search, but not the actual website. Log in. Yep, that's me. Give it the security code. Promise I will not forget to do this ever again. This is painful. All right, hang on. 860. All right, we're logged in. Go copy the code. Copy. Paste. Okay. And now take it live. Now we should be good to go. All right, and we are. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, now we can do this over again. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Photography Morning Show. My name is Terry White. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live once again for my new show, and I'm happy to be here on all the various channels that people are watching on now that I've started on the other places. So with that said, if you are watching this on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, I think that's about it, or Twitch and everywhere else, great, you can hang out there. But if you want to take advantage of the main chat, head over to b.net/Adobe Live. That's where we'll be addressing the main chat most of the time. That's where we also have Cody Bear moderating over there as well. But if you want to hang out where you are, I'll try and notice your questions over there. If not, I see Jesse over on YouTube. I see someone on Facebook that says, hey, Terry. If you want to hang out there, great. I'll try and look at both. But we're going to go ahead and just prioritize, as we always do, the Adobe Live. All right. Now, what are we doing today for the next 50 minutes? We're going to be building a studio, not from scratch because it would take too much time to pull everything out of here and put it back piece by piece. But I did that already for you, and I'm going to give you the link, which I also put it in the description, but I'm going to give you the link just in case you missed it in the description to my photography gear guide. And that's all the stuff we're going to be talking about today. So if you see me talk about something, it should be in there, and I know there are a couple things I'm going to talk about today that I'm going to put in there after the stream, but for the most part, it should be like 95% complete. All right, so with that said, I'm going to pop out of this. I'm going to give you a chance to grab that studio gear guide. Oh, by the way, that's the studio. There's the gear guide. And it's just twhite.me/TW Home Studio. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about setting up a home studio. Or it doesn't have to be in your home. It could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be in your home, but I'm in my home. And I know a lot of people that don't want to rent studio space necessarily start out in their homes. So that's the gear guide link. I'll leave it up for a few more seconds because you can always, if you're watching the replay, you can pause it and grab it. And if you're watching this on all the other channels, like I said, it should be in the description. Cody Bear just pasted it into the main chat over on Behance. So enough of that. Let's get back to the action. All right. So now that you got the gear guide, I'm going to be showing it to you throughout the stream. I'm going to be showing you pieces that I can't physically pick up and walk over here, but you'll see it in the gear guide. You'll be able to see how to interact with it there. And hang on, looks like, all right, looks like we're back. All right, we're back. And we'll, for those of you who missed those last few seconds, I can't physically pick up every piece of equipment and hold it in front of the camera. So that's another reason for the gear guide, so you can see the pictures of it as I talk about it throughout the studio. Now, first and foremost, your studio space needs to be big enough for what you're going to do. I shoot portraits most of the time, so my space is what I would consider the minimum space to do a portrait studio. I was going to look up the square footage, but I know my ceilings are 8 feet high. I just measured them today just to make sure. And I'm thinking my setup is about, and if you're in a different country, I'm not going to say it in meters, I'm going to say it in feet. I think it's about 24 feet long by about 14 or 16 feet wide. And again, I would consider that a bare minimum because you need enough room to put your subject far enough away from the background and then for you to be far enough back from the subject to take the shot. So like I said, this is bare minimum. And I'll give you an example. I normally shoot with, and it's in the gear guide, I normally like to shoot with my 70 to 200 millimeter lens. This is my favorite lens of all time, but I don't get a chance to shoot with it that much in this space because at 200 millimeters, I would be like shooting an eyeball. It would be too close. So I would have to back up into another room to be able to get the shot that far out. And at 70, that's about, you know, when I crank it all the way down to 70, then I'm really not taking advantage of the lens because I've got a 24 to 70. Might as well use that. So that's another reason why you want the space if you got it, because if you're going to shoot with a longer lens and, you know, one that gives you that nice shallow depth of field and that nice compression, then you're going to want to have the space to be able to do it. Now, space isn't always under your control. Like, for example, this was the room I wanted to use in my house for the studio. It is the size it is. I can't make it any bigger. I'm not going to tear down any walls to make it bigger. So it is what it is. I don't get to shoot with this lens as much as I'd like to. Therefore, I am shooting mostly with a 24 to 70. And that's what's on the camera right now, because at 24, I can get a nice wide angle. And at 70, I can get pretty close without being sitting right in front of the person's face. So for me, 24 to 70 in this size space is about the best you're going to do. Now, we're going to get into some lighting, props, tripods, gear. We're actually going to do a quick shoot. We're going to do all kinds of things today. But let me go ahead and switch over to the gear guide, because that'll keep me focused and keep me in order. So I'm going to switch over here. And this is the same gear guide you just got the link to. I'm going to scroll up. There's a couple of videos you can go watch from previous sessions. And this is the camera I'm going to be using today. Actually, that's picture the camera I'm going to be using today. But that's not my new camera. My new camera is actually right under here somewhere buried. My new camera is the new Nikon Z8. So this is the camera I use mostly now. But the Z8 is so new that it doesn't tether into Lightroom Capture yet. Nikon has to update their tethering SDK, Software Developer Kit, and then we'll tie into it in the Lightroom Classic at some point. Usually raw support always comes first, so raw support's already there, but the tethering natively isn't there yet. It will be as soon as Nikon catches up. All right. Now, speaking of spaces, I know people shoot in spare bedrooms, they shoot in garages, they shoot in, maybe the backyard or whatever. Another reason why if you can dedicate a space, it's better because you don't want to have to keep tearing everything down from scratch, or tearing everything down and putting it all back together from scratch. I've played that game before on some rented space. It's not fun having to get to the session at least an hour, if not 2 hours beforehand, just to pull everything out of a closet or a locker, put everything up from scratch, then tear it all back down after the shoot and put it all back away. I don't want to do that anymore. So either I'm going to have a space dedicated like this, or even if I rent a space in a building, a commercial building, it's going to be a space I can leave the equipment set up, or at least the majority of the equipment set up all the time. And plus I was dragging the expensive equipment back and forth to that studio. I was like carrying the cameras and the lights that I didn't trust leaving there because I didn't want them to get stolen or damaged or whatever. So it's not I did that for actually 2 years. Don't want to ever do that again. All right, let's get into, so camera. You can use a professional camera, mirrorless camera, DSLR, or your phone. We're going to be talking about phone photography as well and what you would need to do that. Doesn't really matter what camera you use or what you like to use, because it's just a matter of how you're going, as long as it gives you the shot you want, meaning from the quality, and as long as you can light the shot and get the lighting you want in a studio. That's the advantage. Now, why a studio versus just going outside and shooting? Well, for example, here in Atlanta today, as we speak right now, it's 87 degrees outside. 87 degrees, gonna be 90 something today. I don't want to be outside shooting and my subject sweating and I'm sweating, and it's miserable to be shooting outside. Also, you're under, as far as lighting is concerned, when you're outside, you're at the mercy of natural light. Today is a beautiful day, and if I'd have got out this morning, probably could have got some good shots. Wait till sun starts to go down this evening, probably get some good shots. Don't want to be out in the middle of the day. So then you're also time constrained as to when you can get the best available light and when you can't. Like, you're like for example, it's noon now here. I can't go out and shoot in the sunlight. It'll just be too harsh and too miserable from the heat. So that's another reason why I prefer a studio, or at least an indoor location. It doesn't have to be a studio, but somewhere inside, because you're in more control at that point. You're in control usually of the temperature, you're in control of your lighting, you're in control of sound. You don't have to worry about passerbys coming and interrupting your shoot, or traffic or anything like that. Well, you're not shooting video, so you don't have to worry about noise, unless you're shooting video. But those are the kinds of considerations for outside versus inside. Okay, now once you decide it on your camera, whatever camera you're going to use, I don't really care. If you're going to use something other than a smartphone, we'll come back to the smartphone in a second. One of the main advantages of shooting in studio is that you can tether your shot to your computer. You can tether your camera to your computer. So that way, in a program like Lightroom Classic, which we're going to do this in a minute, you can take a shot and have it show up as large as your display is. So I've got a nice tall portrait display here. Here, let me see if I can scroll ahead and get to it and show it to you. It's down here at the bottom of the tethering, or bottom of the gear guide here. Hold on. Oh, whoa. Oh, that's not it. It's all the way at the bottom. Yeah, so that's my tethering setup right there, where it's the laptop just sitting there, and I'm running Lightroom obviously on the laptop, but I have a second display rotated in portrait mode so that when I snap a portrait, we can see that portrait nice and big, and the subject, whoever you're photographing, your model, can see their shot nice and big, and so they can adjust their posing and everything else as well. So, laptop, desktop, anything with basically that can run Lightroom Classic can become a tethering computer. So I don't leave this laptop here, I take it back and forth with me, but I leave the display set up. I leave the table set up that it's on, the little cart that it's on. So that's another advantage to your shooting internally, or shooting indoors, I should say, being able to tether. Now, I've tethered outside as well. It's just then you have more concerns. You have to worry about people tripping over cables. You have to worry about traffic, foot traffic. As long as you're in a secluded area or an area where you're controlling the space, again, no big deal. You can shoot tethered. Now, when it comes to cables, I'm now a fan of this company. It's called Area 51. There's a link to it in the gear guide as well. They make a variety of cables. They're not cheap. You can probably find maybe some cheaper cables from other companies, but they are extremely good quality, and they come in various lengths. So I'm using, right now connected to my camera, it's probably a 15 or 16 foot cable. This one in this bag is 31 feet. So I could really be far away from the computer if I need to tether. Also, you might say, well, can't I just buy a $10 USB-C cable or USB cable from Amazon? Yes, you can. It will probably work. But the reason why tethering cables are so expensive is because not only are they're well built, they're heavily shielded so that you're not going to get interruption in the signal. Someone steps on it, someone pulls at it. Basically, if it's light shielding, that could actually corrupt the shots as they're coming into your computer. So you don't want that. The other reason, these tethering cables are usually in bright colors, orange, red, so forth and so on. So that way people see them on the floor. They're less likely to trip on them. So again, get a decent tethering cable if you're going to shoot with your computer. All right. How long is that display? Oh, the display is, I think this is a 24-inch display. It's not 27, so it's got to be a 24-inch display tall. All right. Making sure I'm not missing anything. Yep, try not to trip over the cables, exactly. All right, so again, all the lenses, filters, all that stuff's listed already. And we're not going to shoot with a drone today. Next up, backdrops, or just something behind the subject, whatever that's going to be. It could be a natural backdrop in your room, in your space. You don't need it. You got a great wall. You don't need anything else. If you have some furniture, you want to build a set, great. Build that set. You don't have to do any, you don't have to have anything specific. But if you're going to try and keep it seamless for the sake of product photography, fashion shoots, shots you're going to extract from the background and put onto something else for your subject. So basically, when you photograph, there's no corner, there's no where the wall meets the floor. It's just one continuous color. And it looks like the person's kind of not on the floor, like they're standing in midair almost, even though you can see their feet on the paper. But you don't see that hard line of where the ceiling, or I'm sorry, where the wall meets the floor. All right, so that's the reason why we use grandma's quilt. That's another reason why we use seamless paper. Now, I don't want to have to keep, I bought a system that actually attaches to the wall, so I don't have to keep taking it down, taking it off. And also, usually, a lot of these systems, even some of the freestanding ones, can hold at least 3 rolls of seamless paper. And so that will cut down on the amount of work you have to do each time you want to change. So there's a chain, I pull the paper up, grab the next chain, pull the paper down, and just pull it out. And usually I tape it down to the floor because it'll curl back up because it's so used to being curled. All right. We're going to actually use this. We're going to do a shot today with this particular setup is called the Replica Studio. And the Replica Studio it's a couple of things. Let me show you what it is without the studio table. Replica Surfaces sells basically these little, I guess they're like 24 by 24 square backdrops. So they already blur the background so you can get that shallow depth of field even with your smartphone. They sell them in all kinds of colors, patterns, so forth and so on. So here's a black one. They sell them shiny. They sell them matte. They sell them all kinds of ways so that you can use them. You basically go to their site, pick out the two you want, because you're going to put, there's always two. You're going to have one in the back, one on the bottom. And you don't need the table for this. They come, you can buy the little clamps, and these will clamp together so that, these will clamp together so that they're like this. Basically, they're creating a table. All right. So that's replica surfaces. Now, they sell something called the Replica Studio. The Replica Studio is the actual table. The nice thing about the table is all of this comes with it. It comes with its own stand. The stand's on wheels, so you can move it around. You can lock the wheel so it doesn't move. And you not only can put a surface on the bottom and one on the back, but you can also put them on the sides. So if you want to have basically a corner that you want to shoot into and then have a surface on the bottom, you can. So this is what we use for product photography. I mostly do portraits. Victoria does product photography, but I'm going to steal her surface table today and use it for the shoot that we're going to do now. All right, so let's move on. Before we actually take the shot, let's talk about lighting. Now, typically, as a starting out in your studio, you're going to do one of three things, if not multiple, but you're going to do at least one of these three things. You're going to have flash photography, whether it's a studio strobe like I'm using, or number two, these are way less expensive and easier to manage and use, speed lights. I've got speed lights in the past for as low as 70 bucks. So Young Newell is the brand I used to use for speed lights. They work great, and because at the end of the day, it's a bright flash of light. It's just those can recycle faster. Those can put out more light. Those can actually overpower the sun. And these can't necessarily do all of that because they're just not as big and as powerful. But they both, at the end of the day, create a bright flash of light. And then lastly, the other number three would be, especially if you're using your phone, you can't use these because you can't trigger them. If you're using your phone, then you're going to use continuous light. So I've got a continuous light on me right now. This is the Lume Cube. If we go down to the lighting, that's this panel right here, the Lume Cube Studio. This is a great kit. Comes in, you get two lights, stands, barn doors, case to carry it in, remote control to change the brightness, change the color, change, when I say color, I mean color temperature. Change the color temperature, turn them on and off. So you get a remote to do all those things, and of course you can do all that from the back. Built-in battery. So this is running off battery in it right now. I don't have it plugged in. So that makes it great for moving it around, taking it places, taking it on location where you might not have a plug. So built-in battery. Just recharge it at night and you're good to go the next day. I won't buy a light anymore, any kind of photography light equipment that doesn't have a battery, because I don't want to be limited to a power plug in my studio. So all my strobes now are battery operated as well. I can take them on location, put them on a stand, use them, trigger them, do the whole 9 yards without ever plugging in power, because they are rechargeable. And these actually have removable batteries, so you can charge a battery. These days work off AA's, but this actually has a rechargeable battery pack, and the battery charger for this charges via USB-C. So battery operated lights from here on out. I used to shoot Elinchrom, and the thing that bugged me about Elinchrom was, in order to get something portable or battery operated, you had to buy a whole new battery operated portable kit called the Ranger. I don't know if they ever made their strobes battery, but I've since moved on to Westcott because battery. All right. So now that we talked about that, your different ways to light, the other thing that you want to be concerned about when you buy your lighting is what you're going to trigger it with. So Another reason I like Westcott, because their strobes and their speed light can be triggered by the same trigger. So this is their FJX3, where they took my feedback into account. I used to give them such crap about this thing because it had a dial on it, and that dial was also a button. And so you would be dialing up the light and you accidentally press the button all the time. They took care of that. It's now a button and a four-way switch, or a four-way button. So you're never gonna be scrolling and hit a button by mistake. Now this particular trigger can trigger all of their gear. So one trigger for any kind of camera triggers their gear, and you can control it in multiple groups. So you can put one light, main light in one group, your key light in another group, your speed light in another group. You can use as many groups as you want and control the power up and down from your camera using this. So I'm going to turn this off for now, put it back on the camera. Then we're going to turn the main light on, and let's take some shots. Okay, so the light has an on-off button. If you don't use it for a while, it will go to sleep. So I just turned it on. And the only reason I know it's on is because I can look up and see it. And I heard it beep. But as soon as I turn on the trigger, watch what happens. Trigger's on, and it connected to it. And what happened, you saw it light up, what happened is the modeling light came on, because the trigger is now controlling the light. So the trigger is set to turn on what's called the modeling light. What's a modeling light? The modeling light is it's not bright enough to really take pictures with. It's just bright enough to illuminate your scene so your camera can autofocus on it, or you can focus on it. So that's the whole point of a modeling light. All right, I'm going to switch the camera on. All right, camera's on now. And we're going to switch on the computer. I'll switch to the computer in a second. All right, once I get back to Lightroom, let's switch to the computer. All right, so I got the computer up. I got Lightroom Classic up. I'm going to go ahead and go to my File menu in Lightroom Classic, Tether Capture, Start Tether Capture. I already gave it a name, Home Studio Setup. I already took a few test shots, so the next one's going to be number 7. I can put it back to 1 because I deleted the test shots. But anyway, this is where it's going to put them, and I'll click OK. Now it's looking for the camera over that long USB cable, and once it finds the camera, it does that. So first bit of advice I can give you, unless your camera can capture to the computer via tethering and to the memory card at the same time, and that's what you want, other than that, take the memory card out of the camera. Nikons can't shoot both. They can't shoot to the computer and the card at the same time. So having the card in is a waste of time. It's because it's never going to use it. But the main reason why you want to take the card out is because if you have images on that card from any other shoot, when you turn the camera on and you hit Start Tether Capture, like I just did, and you notice it's waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and it might take forever before it comes up. You might think it's not working because it has to check every image on that card. So you'll see the light going off on your camera. You just see the green light blinking because it's looking at every image on that card for whatever reason to make sure they're okay. Then once it's checked 1,000 images, 500 images, how many of you have in the card, then it'll say, okay, you can tether now, even though it's not going to use the card. Go figure. So I always remember to take the card out, especially on a Nikon. All right, so the card's out, tethering came up. I can control the camera settings right from this tether bar or on the camera. I can even hit the shutter button and take a shot. But you probably want to see what we're shooting. So let's go to the camera settings. And that's what it looks like right now. So this is the Z6 II, which can tether into Lightroom Classic. I've got one light on. I'm adjusting the lighting. So every time you hear that beep, it went up a tenth of a stop. And now I can move the camera. I can focus, and notice my focus, see those green squares? This is what you don't want. That's the AI-based or the autofocus, complete autofocus. So it's guessing where your subject is. And in this case, it did a good job. It guessed, oh, he must want the vase. I'll lock in on the vase. What if I didn't want the vase? What if I wanted one of the pieces of fruit? With complete autofocus, you don't have a control over that. So what you want to do is you want to change your autofocus setting to one of the settings where you can tell it what to focus on. So I'm going to hit the letter I here. I'm going to go to my autofocus. Instead of autofocus area, I'm going to go to spot focus. So that way, single point focus. So now I'm moving this red square around. Probably see that right on the vase. I can move it down to the fruit. And then when I press the shutter half down, it turns green for a second because that's what it focused on. So you're moving around, you're controlling your focus point. So I like the pattern on the front of it, and I'm basically focused on that. So you're setting your focus point, you're deciding, focus on a person's eye, focus on the thing they're holding in their hand, focus on whatever it is, and that way you get the most part, or you get the part of the image and focus you want. Now, if you're shooting shallow depth of field, that's important. If you're shooting closed aperture, f11, f12, f15, you still want to be able to set the focus point, but it's less critical because the whole scene is going to be in focus anyway. All right, now we got that. Lights on, lights control, we're in tethering. Let's switch to tethering so you can see it. Can we do that one? Yeah, we can do that one. That'll give you both. Okay, so let's go ahead and take the shot. And I already know the shot's going to be bad, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. Oh, speaking of which, go back to the camera settings one more time. I'm also on manual. So I'm usually on one of two modes. I'm on manual in the studio. I'm on aperture priority when I'm walking around doing travel photography. The reason I'm on manual in the studio is because I can control everything. I can control the aperture, control the shutter speed, control the ISO. I can control every piece of it. When I'm walking around, I shoot aperture priority because I just want to control the aperture. I want the camera to set the shutter speed and do all of that because I don't want to take the time to miss the shot that I'm out and about shooting. So if you're afraid of manual, don't be. It's not that hard. And it also gives you complete control in the studio, which is why you're in the studio in the first place, because you have complete control. All right, so now let's go ahead and take the shot. Let's switch back to where you can see both. And I'm going to go full screen so you can see it better. And actually, it's better than I thought it would be. I thought it's still too bright. It's still overexposed a bit, but I thought it would be more overexposed than that. Because I've got my main light set to 6, and I'm going to bring it down a bit. I'm going to bring it down to 5. All right, let's take a shot again. Good thing about products and still life, they don't move around. You don't have to worry about it. All right, that's a little bit better. That's closer to the exposure I'm looking for. Now, you might say, well, Terry, you're getting all that other stuff on the sides. You're right. I would normally turn the camera vertically and shoot this shot. But if I do that, then the camera settings don't turn vertically and they would just look weird to you. They'd be on their side. So I'm not going to do it that way. So that's the only reason. And I can always crop to the sides to get this, to get that excess cropped off if I want. But just so you know, that's why I'm doing it. Now again, that replica surface already has kind of that shallow depth of field look through the window. So I don't have to worry about any of that. All I have to do is keep my product in focus. And that's the beauty of working with this surface. Okay, every shot's going to be the same unless you make a change. So you don't have to shoot the same thing 50 times. The other thing you might do in this case is let's see what it would look like for adding a light. And Nicholas is asking a question. No remote for the camera? Well, remember, I showed you the remote. I just used it. I just used it twice. Your remote is already built into the tethering. Yes, I do have a separate remote. I have a few of them. And therefore, mainly when I'm out and about, I don't need it here, because if I just want to shoot, I can shoot the remote from the computer. Also, if your camera supports it, you even have live view in Lightroom Classic. So as you're moving things around, you can see what it's going to look like in the shot before you take it. So, yes, I do work with triggers. I just don't need one today. All right, and that's live view. I'll go ahead and close live view. And now if I take that shot again, that's the shot. I'm not even touching the camera. I'm just doing it from the remote, and we move that piece of fruit around. So hopefully that answers the trigger question. Now I don't know if I have the trigger in the gear guide. I'll put one or two of the triggers I use in the gear guide as well. So I'll make a mental note to do that. And I'll update the gear guide after the fact. Okay, so adding the second light. We don't need to, but I'm just showing you what your options are. Now, if you didn't have another light like I do over there, maybe you're going to use your second light as your speed light as your second light. The speed light, like these, just have a bright, bare bulb. We're going to talk modifiers too, but in this case, I'm using a Octa softbox as my modifier. It's got diffusion material in it. It's got at least 2 layers of diffusion material to make that light softer. When you're shooting with the bare bulb from your light, it's going to be a harsh light that's usually like you're going to see it like a dot. You want that light to spread out. You want it to look soft. You want it to look natural. Like you see that there's a light at the top of that base, but it doesn't look like a light bulb. It doesn't look bright. And that's the whole point of modifiers and diffusers. Okay, so if I turn this light on, and here, let me show it to you. So now I press the on button. Now there's I didn't press it quick enough. Now there's do you want to turn it on? Yes, I do. Okay. And the minute it connected to the trigger, it turned on the modeling light, because that trigger is controlling every group, and this is in group B. You can see the B there, hopefully. The group B is up there. I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, it's in group B, and group B has the modeling light turned on. Now I don't need the modeling light on both lights, so I can go down and turn the modeling light off, group B. So all my group B lights would no longer have a modeling light on. This is the only light that's on in group B, so it's going to be triggered by the trigger, but no modeling light. Now, I'm going to just show you worst case scenario. I'm going to put it right up next to it, not in the shot, right up next to it, take the shot, let you see the shot. There you go. And now you can see that beam of light in 2 places. You can see it right around the rim of the subject right here, and you can see it up at the top. So that's what you get with a harsh source of light. You can actually see it. And when you're doing product photography, that's a pain in the butt, because you don't want that bright spot on the actual product. You want the product to be lit, but you don't want the product to be super bright. Now, let's talk costs. If money's no object, strobes, big soft boxes, multiple strobes, away you go. But since you're starting out with your new studio, chances are money is an object. So where do we start? You can start with speed lights, and you can get inexpensive modifiers for your speed lights. So for example, let's turn this light off. Let's go on the low end. Let's say we didn't have this light. Now we don't. So now we're just using the speed light. And if I just use the speed light, just to show you the example, I turn the main light off, and I'm now just shooting with a speed light. Just to show you the difference, not flattering. You can see a round light, and you can see harsh spots. So I could turn it up to make it brighter, but that's just going to make it worse. Because this is missing a modifier, that's what you're going to get. So what kind of modifiers can we use? I got one right here. Okay. Let me go back to me for a second. This is one of a couple of different modifiers I have. And this is really just a small softbox for speedlights. That's all it is. It's just like, you know, very inexpensive on the photo sites, B&H or Amazon, very inexpensive. And it just basically goes over your speedlight. There's Velcro to hold it on there, like a Velcro band. And now you've got some diffusion and you've got some spread. Not a ton, but you've got some. It's better than the bare bulb. And this is flat, so it easily travels. All right, I'm going to turn that light up a little bit as well. So we're on 3.2. Let's go to 4.5. So turn it up a little bit over a stop. All right. And now I'm just hand holding it. We're going to get into how you would mount this as well. So I'm just going to hand hold it right over the subject and then let you see the shot. And there we go. Okay. Still not that much better. Let's try it again. Let's maybe not be so close. Let's crank up the power a little bit more so we can be further back. It is brighter, but I can still see those spots. Now if I get closer, brighter, I can see the spots. So you can control the brightness by the distance. You control the brightness by the power. But this is good. You know, you're not going to get much better than this because it's small and it's one layer of diffusion. So how do modifiers work? Think about the sun. The sun is the brightest thing we know, right? It's way up in the sky. It's huge. But it's so far away, it basically looks like a dot to us. The bigger the light source, the closer to the subject, the softer it will be. This is a small light source, like the sun is to us. It's very small from what we see. And it's not filtered by anything, so it's very harsh. So same thing with these modifiers. If you want something softer, get a softer modifier. Now in this case, they do make, I got one down here somewhere. I thought I opened one. What's this one? Yeah, open this one. They do make soft boxes designed for strobes. So this is an actual soft box. Small enough to travel with. On the back, it's got this one little bar. We're going to turn the bar down. Okay, so your speed light goes through the hole, and then this part that's below it gets mounted onto a bracket that comes with the softbox. And I don't know where I put the bracket. There's the bracket. So this bracket goes on the back. Hang on a second. There we go. Let me move it. Okay, so great. So now this goes on a light stand. Your speed light goes back here, points through there, you get a soft. Well, you're like saying, but wait, that's just a bare bulb. It is just a bare bulb if you don't put the diffuser on it that comes with it. So the diffuser basically just wraps around the outside of it. I have it upside down. There we go. Wraps around the outside of it so that you're shooting through something softer. And if I can get this on in the next few minutes, we'll use it. If not, you have to take my word for it. And normally this like Velcro's on. And I'm somehow missing the Velcro parts of it. When you're in a hurry. All right, I think I got it. Just pull this. There we go. Pull this. So, bigger than that little bitty one that could fit in your backpack. Much bigger when it actually folds out. And this is a Rapid Box Octa. I'm not sure the size, but it looks like 20-something inches. And then I'm not going to bother mounting the speed light. I'm just going to kind of hold it in there. Or maybe I can mount it real quick. All right, I can mount it. So mounting the speed light on the back. Don't mount it backwards. Just turn that around, mount it the right way. Because it only folds down one way. That's why it's important. And let's fold it down first. There we go. Just making a couple of adjustments here. And like so. Okay. Turn this back on. All right. And now let's go ahead and shoot this as is. Okay, so I'll switch it back to you. Holding this, again, you'd mount it. Now again, I'm not in front of it because this one's in the way, but here, let's see if I can get it. No, I can't shoot it. Well, maybe. If I position it right on top of the lens there. Better. And look at how much softer that is. Look at that reflection on it. How much softer. Let's crank up the power a little bit more. So I'm cranking up the power of the speed light right from the trigger, right on top of the camera. And I got it at 6.6 now. Too bright. And also that's in front of the lens now. Move it back. There we go. Let's bring it down a little bit more. Maybe at 6. Perfect. That's about right. Okay. A couple of adjustments for position, but again, I'm just hand holding it directly on top of the camera. But you can see the difference in quality of light. Same light, but it's mainly about the modifier. The modifier is what's making the difference. Ceiling bounce. Yep, ceiling bounce can work as well. If you've got a close enough ceiling. So remember when I said my room is about the minimum size I would want? I wouldn't want anything smaller. The only thing I hate about this room is the ceiling is being 8 feet instead of 10 or 15 or 12 feet because it limits the height on how high you can put a light to shoot down. Now, of course, you could bounce up. It's like someone suggested, you bounce off the ceiling down. You can use reflectors, use all kinds of modifiers to get the shot you want. But speed lights are going to be most people's entree into their studio photography. They can be mounted on stands. They can also, if you have an assistant, Westcott makes this Pro Grip. So this grip can actually mount the light like so. And now that we don't want that harsh light, so what do we do to soften this? We go old school. Soft boxes can be expensive. Umbrellas are cheap. This whole thing's a diffuser. And the grip in most light stands that hold lights, or most lights I should say, have the ability to have a hole in the front of them to slide the umbrella through the hole. So basically, that's the way it would shoot. So, and even the strobes, the stand for the strobe has a hole in it to slide the umbrella through. So this is another option. And we'll take this one last shot using this, and then we'll address any questions, and our time will just about be up. All right, so this is further away because the umbrella's further away from the light. So yeah, I expect it to be darker. I'm also not in front of it because of the other stuff's in the way, but you get the idea. Still nice and soft, and umbrellas are a fraction of the cost of soft boxes. And I'm just hand holding it with this, but this whole thing can be mounted on a stand as well. Even this grip has a 1/4-20 in the bottom of it. So you can even mount this grip onto a light stand or tripod or whatever. All right, so umbrellas, when you want to go super portable, because at the end of the day, it's just an umbrella, super portable, speed light, grip, and an assistant to hold it, and maybe 2 assistants to hold 2 of them. And you've got your own portable studio that you can take on the go and use in studio. So light stands, and by the way, these speed lights, every speed light I know of comes with one of these, where you can mount the speed light in here and then mount this onto a stand as well, or just set it down on the table. So if you don't want to hold it, don't have someone to hold it, most speed lights can be mounted, and of course, all kinds of accessories. When it comes to light stands, you can go cheap. These are like inexpensive, lightweight aluminum light stands. You can also go super expensive with C-stands at heavy duty. If you're going to mount something big, you're going to have something over an arm, be sure to put sandbags on it so it doesn't fall over. Back in my day, I had one of my expensive strobes. I was walking away from it, actually. I was walking away from the studio, and I heard crash. Well, I didn't hear the I just heard the crash. And my whole strobe fell and cracked the case. It still worked, but it cracked the case and just and luckily it still worked. I think I had to replace the modeling lamp, but it could have been a lot worse. So sandbags, always hold the stuff down with sandbags. All right, see if I missed anything. Yep. Okay. All right. Yeah, it was a heart-sinking moment for sure. Buy good stands, keep them forever. Yeah, that's the thing about stands, lenses. You buy good quality gear, especially something you're like a light stand, if you're going to hold heavy, expensive equipment on it. You want that light stand to be strong enough to hold it. And it's not something you're going to replace for years because there's no reason to. Light stands are light stands. They work or they don't. Once you buy them, you keep them kind of forever. All right. Would the softbox and light you're using now be recommended when shooting glass? I often need pictures of various bottles. Glass is challenging. It's like a photographer, I remember this challenge was shooting a bowling ball because the whole thing's a reflective surface. So you're going to have some reflection in the glass. Angles matter. But it's hard to light something that's a piece of glass and not have it reflect some piece of that light in it. That's your biggest challenge. But yes, it could work. All right, that is my time. Thanks everyone for watching. Sorry for any quality issues you had with the stream. I noticed YouTube's doing a little buffering today, so that might be sound issues that you're seeing. But otherwise, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, everybody.